Okay, so it's 12 past, so we can see a couple more people coming in. We'll kick the webinar off now, and yeah, we'll go from there. So hello everyone and welcome to today's onboarding webinar, specifically on bill payments. So this session will run for approximately 45 minutes, about 30 minutes or so of a presentation, a training run through that I'll be doing for everyone. And we've got some time set aside at the end to do a Q&A. So it could run a little bit shorter, could run a little bit longer. It depends on how many questions we have, but we'll try and get through it as quickly as possible for everyone. Want to make sure you get value out of it as well. So we will make sure we'll get questions answered. A few housekeeping notes to get us started. If you're here and the broadcast hasn't begun, please click the play button on your screen to start. If you experience any technical issues, please just refresh your browser. As an attendee, your video and audio are automatically muted. For any questions or comments during the session, please use the chat function only, located at the bottom right of your screen. So if you'd like to put some questions in or use the chat function, the default setting is the question or the chat will go to everyone, so everyone can see it. If you'd like to send it to me directly, just choose the admin only option and you can send a question directly to me if you'd prefer to do that. So we'll have a dedicated Q&A at the end to address all the questions in detail. So we'll make sure everyone gets their questions answered. We've had some people register for the webinar today, but they've let us know ahead of time that they're actually going to be unable to make it. And they've sent through a couple of questions ahead of time. So I've got them written down here. So I'll make sure that those people get their questions answered as well. This session will be recorded. And the recording will be available for everyone from about 10 a.m. tomorrow. So we'll make sure we get the live questions answered and we'll get the questions answer that people have sent through because they've been unable to make it. Towards the end, everyone on the session will have an opportunity to put their hand up if they would like their account manager to be in touch with them this afternoon or tomorrow to help them with some questions kind of one-on-one. So don't worry if you don't get a chance to ask a question or if you think of a question after the webinar, because your account manager is always there to help you. If you do think of any questions afterwards, just give us a call or send us an email. All the telephone support, all the training, it's all free. We're all here to help. So one last thing, please be aware that this session is being recorded for the avoidance of doubt, and the link to the recording will be shared with everyone after the webinar via email, roughly about 10 a.m. tomorrow. So what we'll do to get started is I'm going to log into my Budgetly account and I'm going to share my screen so you can see what I'm doing. And we'll start kicking this training session off. So it looks like everyone should be able to see my computer screen. If for any reason anyone has any issues, just pop it in the chat and I'll see what I can do to help out. The first thing we're going to talk about in getting ready to be able to process bills through Budgetly is you want to just make sure you actually have money in the account ready to pay a bill. So for example, go to the settings section down here on the left-hand side and go to your account section. Now, this is my fake account, my demo account. So it's going to tell me I have a lot more money than I really do. I wish I had 200 grand in there. But you can see here, you've actually got two accounts. You've got a cards account and you've got a bills account. So the number one reason why some of our customers have tried to pay a bill and it's been unsuccessful is because they've got money in their cards account, but they don't yet have funds in their bills account. So you just need to deposit money into your bills account. It's very easy to do. It's exactly the same as transferring into your cards account. You'll notice that the BSBs are the same, but the account numbers are different. So just to recap that, before you can start paying bills in Budgetly, you just got to transfer some money into your bills account. Very easy to do. If you need a hand, just give us a call and we'll walk you through it. So now that we've covered the first little bit on actually depositing money into the account, we'll actually move on to the bills section. Now, throughout the session today, there'll be some little polls that are going to pop up on the screen just with multiple choice answers. If you can just click a button that best answers the question for your business and your operation, that will help us as we go through the training webinar, as depending on the responses, that may change the things that I talk about or don't talk about. So I'm just going to start a poll right now. And it's just on average, how many invoices is your business processing roughly per month? Some of the businesses that use Budgetly, they may have a couple of bills, maybe 10 bills, 20 bills a month that are going through. Some of our customers have thousands, So if you can just let us know, give or take, by clicking the button on the poll, roughly how many bills you're processing through your business per month. That will help us continue with the onboarding webinar. While people are filling out the answers to the polls there, some of the businesses we talk to, they may have not really much automation with their bill payments process at the moment. Maybe they're smaller businesses, maybe they're relatively new. And sometimes we talk about this in bill payments and they're like, this is just fantastic what you're showing me. I can't wait to use it. Some of the businesses we talk to, they're like, oh, I've actually got a process in place for most of the bills. About 80% of my bills are, I've got a process in place. But this would be great for like the ad hoc bills and the random bills I get and things like that. So the good thing about bill payments is you're only going to pay for what you use. It's actually usage based. So you can put 1 bill through it. You can put 10 bills through it. You can put 100 through it. You only pay for what you use. So we'll just end the poll there. Thank you everyone for filling out the details as best you can. And now what we're going to get onto is how you're going to get a bill into Budgetly. And the first problem that bill payments is going to solve is it should eliminate data entry work of entering bills into your nominated accounting software or into whatever billing system that you're using. So I'm going to click on New Bill in the top right corner. And what this is going to allow me to do is it's going to allow me to drag and drop a bill in here. And it's actually going to read the details off the bill for us. So it's going to use the data extraction tool that we've got in here. It's powered by AI, so it's not just extracting the data, it's also interpreting the data as well. So for example, one of the things it can do is if the bill says it's due in 7 days, it's smart enough to pick up on when the due date is based on today's relative date. So what I've done just there is I've dragged that bill into the system. And it's actually read the information off the bill for me. And on the left-hand side, what it's done here is it's populated all the information there for us. So you shouldn't have to type in any information on the bill. Just drag it into Budgetly or read it off the screen for you. Now, I'm going to click Save and Continue, and we'll go through to the next section. And the first thing it's going to do for me is just give me a little screen that I can summarize a few bits and pieces on. So for example, some businesses might want to put an internal note in here, which is going to pop up in Budgetly, right? So if someone pays a bill, they might want to put a note on there saying we also purchased a vase. I got some flowers in delivery from Henry's Florist. Maybe we also purchased a vase as well. In the remittance details here, it's going to automatically default to who should be getting the remittance advice. I'm just going to change that to me for the moment to get started. We'll click Save and Continue, and we'll move on to the next screen. Just before I do that, though, you will notice that it's also plucking the GST off the bill as well. So that's one of the things that you also won't have to worry about. So we're going to move through to the next screen here. And before we talk about budgets and selecting your budgets, I'm actually just going to start another poll, if we don't mind, everyone. I'll just take us 2 minutes. And this one's about how in your business you enter the bill, the information off the bill or the invoice into your current accounting software or into the billing system that you use. Some of the businesses we talk to, they manually type the information in. Some of them, they'll be able to import information, but they've still got to put the information into a CSV to import it in. So it kind of just moves the data entry from the bill to the CSV file. Some people have some automated extraction already in their business. It's great if you've got automation. So it's kind of a bit of a mix. It's a bit of a stir fry with the customers that we talk to. So we just got a couple of people filling out the information on the poll there. I will end that one soon. And it looks like, well, it looks like it's a 50-50 split with the responses that I'm seeing. We're seeing about 50% are doing manual data entry and about 50% of the responders to the poll are doing a split between manual data entry and some automation. So again, everyone, thank you for just filling out the details on the poll there. It's very helpful for us. Moving on with the bill payments webinar, this training webinar that we're doing right now. The screen I'm on right now is selecting the budget. Now, with the attendee list of people who are on this training webinar today, I saw some familiar faces. So if you know me already, it's great, and thanks for joining. I also saw some newer businesses that I personally didn't quite know on the Budgetly platform. So if you're familiar with the budgets concept, this is going to make a lot of sense. If not, don't worry, I'm going to explain it to you now. But when you're about to pay a bill, you're going to need to select the budget that it's going to be paid from. So how your budgets work is your budgets are where you set your spending rules. So your administrator may have issued a card to Bill, and maybe Bill's got a budget. And the budget might say that Bill's allowed to spend $50 a week, but Bob's allowed to spend $100 a month. And maybe Jane's allowed to spend $10 a day. So those spending rules, the flexible controls that you have in the budgets, are still going to apply to bills as well. They apply to both cards and bills, or they're also flexible enough for you to set up a budget that's just for cards and maybe one that's just for bills. So you're going to need to select the appropriate budget that you're going to pay the bill from. Please remember that I can only select a budget that I'm allowed to. You know, my administrator has set me up with a couple of budgets that I can pay bills from, and they all have their own different and flexible and independent spending rules. So if you don't have a budget available to pay a bill, you can't pay a bill. Now, there's another thing I just want to touch on here before we go any further on the budgets. And this one might be relatively, some of the people who are newer to Budgetly might not know about this one. So I'm going to click on Settings and I'm going to click on Preferences. And I'm just going to open this in a new tab so I can come back to what I was doing. But you've actually got a relatively new section in here since we released bill payments. And I'm going to click on Bills here and I'll show you what I mean. This is where you can set a master approval limit for the bills to be paid or created in your company. So I'm just going to zoom in a little bit just so everyone can see a little bit better. And hopefully that helps everyone out. But what we're talking about here, this is a master approval limit. And I've got an approval limit in here for $35. And that's just for my testing purposes. But what this means is, even if I have a budget that tells me that I'm allowed to pay $1,000 of bills this month, any bill that's over $35 needs to be approved by an admin. So what this gives you the ability to do is, on top of the budget spend controls that you have, you can also set a master level bill approval limit. So how the approval limit is going to work is, if I need to pay a bill for under $35, because that's what I've got in here, you can put the limit to whatever you want. I can create the bill, I can pay the bill, as long as I have money in my budget, you know, absolutely no worries. It still needs to adhere to the rules of your budgets. But if I want to pay a bill that's over $35, instead of being able to pay it, my pay button is going to change to a request approval button, which I'm going to show everyone in a moment. So we'll go back to the other screen that I was on. Remember, we're just here talking about selecting the budget to actually pay the bill. If you can just bear with me 2 seconds, I'm just going to check the chat here. We've just got a question from Gurav Sharma. So thank you for your question. How can we create, it looks like the question was, how can we create budgets? So creating budgets is done in your budget screen. What I'll do is I'll just park that for the moment, Gurav, and I'll just run a quick 2-minute section on how to create bills when we get to the end of the bill payments webinar. So we'll just hold that thought for the moment. Now, selecting the budget, where we were here. So I've selected the budget. I have available funds in my marketing department budget. It's telling me here I've got enough to pay the bill, and I'm going to click Save and Continue, and we'll go through to the next screen. Now on this screen, it's just giving you one last chance to double check the supplier details, and please forgive me as I scroll up and down. I've zoomed in on my screen to try and make it easier for everyone to see, because I think the writing was a little bit small. You can just double check the details. If you need to change anything, you can, but you'll also notice that there's 2 buttons down here. I've got a Pay Now button and I've got a Schedule button. So you can pay the bill right now if you want, or you can schedule the bill to be automatically paid at a future date. Now you can choose the payment date here in this little calendar select if you are scheduling the bill. The default setting to the schedule payment option is it will be scheduled to 3 business days prior to the due date on the bill to give the money enough time to change hands and so on. When you are actually paying a bill in Budgetly, the actual settlement of that transaction, so the recipient of the funds actually receiving the money, it's not quite instant, but it's pretty much under a minute. It's a very, very quick process, and bill transactions settle a lot faster than card transactions for those that have been using the Budgetly system for a little while. So you can pay the bill now, or you can schedule it for the future. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to click the Pay Now button, and we'll go from there. Now, you may have noticed earlier that I did say that I set the master approval limit to pay a bill to $35. And you'll notice that this bill is $38.50. So how was I allowed to pay that bill if the master level approval is at $35? Well, it's because I'm currently logged in as an admin. So as an admin, you can pay those bills above those limits, remember, as long as you have the budgets to be able to pay the bills. If I was a user, so not an admin, and you want your end users to be able to pay bills, because you can control, who can and can't pay bills and so on. But if you want them to be able to pay bills and they want to pay a bill that's higher than that master level approval, that's when they'd have to hit the request button, and that will ping your admins. You can decide as an admin who gets that notification, and you do that by just making them an owner of the specific budget that they're wanting to pay the bills from. If you don't nominate someone, it's just going to notify all the admins in the organization, and an admin would be required to approve the payment of that bill if it's over that master limit approval, what we were talking about earlier. So we'll just stop there for a moment. And what we're going to do before I move on to reconciling into your accounting software is we're just going to do another quick poll together. And this one's more about actually paying bills or invoices in your organization. So if you can just have a little bit of a think and just click the button that's more appropriate to you. Some of the businesses that we talk to, what they do is they'll log into their business bank account and they'll do a manual EFT transfer, BSB and account number, that type of stuff. A lot of businesses we talk to, they'll have batch payments set up where they're exporting an ABA file and importing that into their nominated bank accounts and so on, and actually doing batch payments, lots of payments at once. If you are doing batch payments, what I want you to have a think about is, do you also have any other bills in your organization that you may do as a once-off? Because maybe they fall outside of your batch payment policy rules, things like that. Some businesses do a mixture. It's pretty rare that I talk to businesses where the actual payment of the bills is automated. There's usually a couple of checks or a couple of layers in place before it actually gets paid. So I want to thank everyone for clicking the button on the poll there. We'll just stop that one and we'll move on. So thank you, everyone. And what we're going to get to now is we're going to have a look at the transaction screen in here. And again, forgive me, my screen's a little bit zoomed in. I did that so everyone could see a little bit better. What's going to happen when the bill's paid is similar to the card transactions on the transaction screen here. You're going to see when the bill was paid. You're going to see the supplier who you paid the bill to. You're going to see the user who paid the bill. So was it me? Was it one of my colleagues? It'll track who in the organization is paying the bills. You're going to see the budget that it's come out of. So was it the marketing department? Was it so on? So you can see the budget it's coming out of. Now it's being categorized for us. So if you're using Xero, your category is going to match up to your chart of accounts. Your tags will match up to your Xero tracking categories. If you're using a different accounting software that's not Xero, generally your categories will match up to your GL codes. Generally, your tags will be other sub-categorization you may have. It could be job codes. It could be location tracking. It depends on how your accounting software is set up. And you'll notice here this PDF has been automatically attached for us. So what it's done is it's taken that invoice and it's automatically attached it as the receipt. So you don't have to do it. You shouldn't have to do any attachments there. And if you click on that button, it'll pop the invoice up on the screen so you can have a look at it. You can also see that any of these notes are available on the transaction screen as well, also border base. So any internal note that you put on the bill will be accessible here. Now it's done the GST for us. So it's plucked the GST off the bill for us. So you shouldn't have to worry about that either. Now, if you are using Xero, how are you going to sync it into your accounting software? It's the same as syncing your card transactions. So you'll have transactions for cards and you'll have transactions for bills. And when you click that Sync Now button, all the transaction information is going to go across to Xero, including the receipts or the tax invoices that have been attached. One thing to point out as well, say if you're syncing card transactions across and someone hasn't put their receipt on, the next time that they upload the receipt directly from their mobile app or their computer, because it'll keep asking them to, when they upload the receipt, the next time you sync, it's going to send that receipt across and go and match it up with the old transaction. So you don't have to worry about that with bills because our system will automatically attach the invoice for you. So what we're going to do there is we're just going to pause for a brief moment. I've got some questions coming in and I will make sure that I get to them in a moment. But we're just going to have a look at one more poll, if we don't mind, before I move on to some closing bits and pieces, some more advanced things and things like that. But what we'll do at the moment is we will just ask a poll around the biggest challenges that you're currently facing with processing invoices in your organization. If you can just click the button that most applies to you, But some of the businesses that we talk to for the whole process of paying bills, some of them have problems around entering the data into the system. So we've built the drag and drop to be able to eliminate data entry. So if you are typing bills into a system, by using something like this, it should solve that problem for you. One of the things we didn't touch on today, which I'll talk about briefly now, is it's also got some inbuilt fraud prevention and duplicate detection systems in place. And what that means is it's kind of two different buckets there. Duplicate detection. So say, for example, someone was in yesterday and they uploaded a bill to be paid. Maybe it's in draft, maybe it's been approved to be paid, maybe it's been scheduled, maybe they've already paid it, something like that. And you come in today and you don't know, you don't see it, and you upload that same bill because you're going to pay it. Our system will give you a pop-up on the screen and it will say, hang on, that bill's already been uploaded. Are you sure you want to pay it again? So we'll give you an alert to try and prevent any duplicate payments, things like that for bills you've already paid. The second bucket around that is fraud prevention. So we take all reasonable steps to try and help you realize that maybe we should hold off on paying this bill until we can double check a few things. So what I mean by that is, say I get a bill from Henry's Florist and it's going to pay to bank account details, blah, blah, blah. They send me a bill next month because I bought some flowers again. If the payee details on that invoice are different to the last successfully paid invoice of that supplier, again, you'll get a pop-up that says these details are different. The supplier matches, but the BSB and account number are different. And we'll give you an alert saying you should probably give them a call and double check those payee details. It is a plausible situation. Sometimes suppliers do change their bank account details. I mean, I've had a supplier text me saying these are my new bank account details for the people that clean my house. I was a little bit I wasn't too sure about it because there's scams going around everywhere. So I gave them a call and they're like, no, it's legitimate. We've changed our bank account details. The whole point is, though, if some crook has gotten into the email inbox of one of your suppliers and they've sent you a fake invoice, it looks legitimate, but the payee details are different, our system should be able to give you a pop-up to say you might want to check that. As always, you probably want to do your own checks as well. We try and provide all the tools necessary to make it easy for you. So thank you, everyone, for filling out the details on the poll information that we said earlier. That's very helpful for us. So now we're just going to talk about a few other advanced bits and pieces before we finish off, and I'll go to the Q&A for everyone. Now, one last thing not to forget is your action logs. So everything that happens in Budgetly, the action log is going to track it all for you. And that goes for bills as well. Some of the cool things you can use it for, say you attempt to pay a bill and the payment's unsuccessful, your action logs will tell you why. Like it'll say you didn't have enough funds in the budget. Maybe there wasn't enough funds in the actual bills account. Remember back at the beginning, the first thing you got to do is actually deposit money into your bills account. So it will tell you why the payment didn't go through. It'll also give you a complete audit trail of who's uploading bills, who's requesting permission to pay bills, which admin is approving the bill to be paid, and so on and so forth. So don't forget about your action logs. Now, a few other bits and pieces in the transaction screen up here. With your drop-down boxes you've got up here, you've got some new ones that are going to help you filter your transactions and kind of chop the data however you want. So, for example, the type. You can filter by card transactions. I'll hit search here and I can see card transactions, KFC, Officeworks, and so on. But you can also filter by bill transactions only. So you can kind of split the data up however you want. So don't be afraid to play around with your drop-down boxes and your filters and so on up the top there, because they're going to be really helpful for you. You've also got a new suppliers module over here to the right-hand side. And this is where you'll see all of your suppliers that you can manage the details on, and you'll also be able to see information on them as well if you go into their details, how many bills you pay to that supplier, are there any draft bills, things like that. So what we'll do now is that is a base level training session on how to deposit money into your bills account, how to create your first bill, drag and drop it in there. We've covered a few bits and pieces around the fraud prevention as well as the duplicate detection. We've also covered how to pay the bill itself, and then again, how to sync it into your accounting software. So we'll just finish with a couple of questions for the Q&A. And mind you, if anyone does think of any other questions, don't worry. Your account manager can always help you after the fact. So I'll make sure we give you a couple of calls. Now, I want to talk about the first question that we received in the chat here. And I think what the question is saying is around how to create budgets or budget heads. So let's say if we have to pay rent weekly, but we don't have an invoice, how can we pay this in this scenario? Okay, all right. So we've got a couple of different questions here. So first of all, creating budgets. Just a quick session here for those that don't know. When you're creating a budget, there's two main rules you want to think about. So you can call the budget whatever you would like. And it's how much are they allowed to pay in what time frame? So for example, let's say we're going to do a budget for house bills. And maybe they're allowed to pay $1,000 per fortnight. So up to $1,000 on bills per fortnight. And remember, your master level approval is going to ensure that even if they have money up to $1,000 in the budget, if your master level approval says they have to get permission from an admin to pay that bill, they'll still have to get permission. They won't be able to pay that bill unless an admin approves it. So these two rules he's setting here in the budget, how much are they allowed to spend in what time frame? The people who have access to pay from this budget, they're never going to be able to spend more than this amount unless you come in or an admin comes in and pushes a button to give them more money. So creating a budget, then you're just deciding who has access to spend from this budget. So if I've got Matt Clements as the owner and I've got Chet as the employee who's allowed to pay bills from this budget, it means that Chet will be allowed to pay within a fortnight up to $1,000 on bills or whatever he's paying, and he'll never be able to spend more than $1,000 in a fortnight. And because I'm the owner here, if I've set the master level approval as $50, if Chet wants to pay a bill for $45 and he's still got money in the budget up to $1,000, he can pay that bill, no worries. But if Chet wants to pay a bill for $100, he's not going to be able to pay it. He's going to have to click the request permission. Am I allowed to pay it? And it's going to notify me because I'm an admin and I'm the owner of the budget. If I wasn't in this budget, it would notify all of your admins so someone could approve it. Now, you can only approve the payment of those bills if it's above the master level approval limit if you're an admin. So just two things I want to recap on there. How you would add a budget head is it would be the owner of the budget here, and that's the person who's in control of this budget and can do little approvals and things like that. How you create budgets as a whole is what I've just done here. So we'll move on to the next question I've got in the chat, and I hope I am understanding this correctly. But we've got, let's say if we have to pay rent weekly, but we don't have an invoice, how can we pay it in this scenario? Okay, so if you would like to pay a supplier and you don't have an invoice, you can still do so. So I've clicked on new bill on the right-hand side there. It's giving me the option to drag and drop a bill in, but maybe we want to pay a supplier and we don't have a bill. So you can choose from your list of suppliers here, but if the supplier doesn't exist, if it's a brand new one, you can create the supplier first in the supplier section, right? So you can go new supplier and you can create a supplier in here. So it could be the real estate that you're paying your rent to. Maybe you don't get a bill every month, but you just add them in here, supplier name, ABN, all the details in here, including the payment details. I have to make a very important point here. If you're manually adding in supplier details, double, triple check these payment details, because if there's no bill to read, my fraud prevention can't double check it for you. So just make sure you've got those details in there correctly. Now, before I move on, I'm going to cover something that's kind of a question that arises with this as well. What happens if we accidentally enter the wrong supplier details? So I've gone to pay the rent. I don't have a bill, so I've just entered the supplier in here, and I've put the wrong digit on the account number. I've sent the money. What do? Okay, so there's two scenarios there. Number one, more often than not, if you've got the account details wrong, it's probably going to be no one's account. It's not going to be a stranger's account. Typically what happens is it's usually one extra digit or you've left one digit off. Most of the time with that, it's not going to be someone's account, and our system it'll attempt to send the money and it will automatically send it straight back to you. So in that circumstance, you don't actually have to do anything. The money will be just back in your account. Now, the second scenario is, what if I have somehow accidentally paid it to the wrong person? Maybe I've entered the incorrect details and it was someone's real account, or some variation of that. So I've actually paid it to the wrong bank account. Now, it is possible for us to provide a recall service for you. It's done through our payments partner. It costs us $50 to do so, which we won't absorb. But just to make sure we're all on the same page, it is actually possible to recall funds. Because it costs money, I mean, you probably want to make sure that you're 100% certain that you want to go down that path. You don't just want to recall funds if you send it to the right place. But yeah, it is possible to recall funds if you've accidentally sent it to the wrong account. So going back to the original question, paying rent and we don't have a bill. So you just add the supplier in here. Once the supplier exists, you're going to go to the bills section here. You don't need to drag and drop a bill in because we don't have a bill. So we'll go new bill in the top right corner, and you will select the supplier here from the drop-down box. And you'll be able to pay your rent or pay what you owe this supplier without actually dragging an invoice in. So Gurav in the chat, I hope that has answered your question. We've got another question down here. The zero integration is great. Yes, I know that. Thank you very much for pointing that out. We like it too. We've got another question here. How do we pay multiple bills at once? Or we pay bills one by one on Budgetly? Okay, that's a very good question. Thank you for asking that. Currently at this point in time, paying the bills is one by one. You drag the bill in, you select the budget, you pay the bill. Takes you all of 18 seconds. We do have on our roadmap, which we're actually building right now, and we're hoping we're going to have it out before the end of the year. Maybe not, that might be early next year, where you're going to be able to do bulk payments. So around that question, just to summarize, how do we pay multiple bills at once? Right now, it's one at a time. You just click the button. It's just one-click payment. Coming very soon will be bulk payments in one go. We'll be sure to add you to the list. Thank you for asking that question, and when it's ready, we'll give you a call and let you know. On to the next question we've got in the Q&A. Does Budgetly support international payments? Right now, at this point in time, it's payments to Australian suppliers only. But again, on the roadmap with our payments partner, in the future, you will be able to pay international suppliers. There is a lot of anti-money laundering and counterterrorism financing regulatory requirements that go into sending money outside of the country, even more so than sending it inside the country. So we are working on that, and we should have it released for you soon. Right now, Australia only, soon to be international. We've got another question asked in here as well. So I'll just read this one out for everyone. If we have multiple properties, can we create a tracking for each property? You can, yes. So creating tracking for each property. A lot of our customers might be in the NDIS space where they have supported independent living houses or specialist disability accommodation, things like that. A lot of our customers are in aged care, childcare, things like that, and they have multiple locations, multiple centers, multiple sites. So setting up tracking for each site can be done on the budget level. And what you want to do is you want to have a budget or budgets for each location or each property or each site. So when you're creating the budget, and I've just used an example of one that I've got in here. It's a particular still house in my fake account. But when you're creating the budget, if you scroll down to the default section in here, you've got a default category and a default tag. So let's assume you're using Xero. You may have an account code in your chart of accounts for house number one or site number one. And you also may have Xero tracking category value set up for that particular house or site as well. So every time you pay a bill for that house or spend money on that house on a card payment, you can select in here so that it automatically applies the appropriate tracking for you. And every time you spend, it's going to be done for you. You won't have to do anything. You won't have to push the button or anything like that. So that's actually very easy to set up. What I'd recommend you do is just give your account manager a call, or I'll get them to call you this afternoon or tomorrow after this session. We'll actually talk you through that. It's really easy to set up. So just to summarize for everyone, if you want to automate tracking based on properties or sites or locations and so on, you can do it. You just need to make sure that your budgets are set up in a flexible and granular enough way that it's going to do that for you. So the short answer is yes, you can do that. Please let us help you. We'll make sure you don't have to do it on your own. So there's a couple more questions that were sent ahead of time for some people that weren't able to attend. Just before I get to those, we've got another question here in the live chat. Can we transfer funds from Budgetly card to Budgetly bills if we have a surplus available in the Budgetly card? That's a very good question. And the short answer is it's not that simple, I'm afraid. So you've got two accounts here. You've got the cards and you've got the bills. Now, when you've got money in your cards account, to get the money out of your cards account, like just pretend you put too much money in there. You put $100,000 in there and you only need $50,000 for the next 6 months. Maybe you want to pull $50,000 out. It's not necessarily that quicker and easy of a process, and it's not because of it's not because of us. There's quite a lot of anti-money laundering regulatory requirements that need to be checked and filled out for the money to be sent back to you. So you actually got to fill out a form. Probably takes a couple of business days, probably give it about a week to be safe for that money to be sent back to your bank account. So that needs to be sent back to your business bank account, not necessarily to your bills account. Now, it's a little bit different if you've transferred money in your bills account. I've got 284 grand in here. Let's pretend I want to get money out of my bills account. Well, it's a little bit easier because it's a bill paying account. And if you think back to the question we just had 5 or 10 minutes ago, what you can actually do is set your business bank account up as a supplier. So set yourself up, your business as a supplier. Go to bills. You don't need to drag a bill in there. You just need to select yourself as the supplier, like I'm doing here, similar to what we were talking about earlier with paying the rent. And you can actually pay a bill to yourself, right? So if you put a surplus in your bills account, you can pay that money back to your business bank account as long as you set yourself up as a supplier. I'm just going to summarize those two things because it is a little bit complicated. Getting money out of the cards section, you need to fill out a form. We'll get it refunded to you as quickly as possible. There's certain anti-money laundering checks we have to do there. Getting money out of your bill section, because it's a bill paying account, you can actually pay a bill to yourself if you need to get some money out. You can't transfer money yet from cards to bills. We are working on that in the future. Again, as I'm sure you can understand, there's quite a lot of compliance hoops we need to jump through to be able to do that type of stuff. Now, we've got another question in the chat here. Is there a processing fee as we pay bills? That was one of the questions we got sent ahead of time as well. What does it cost? So I'm glad we got that brought up. Paying bills in Budgetly is completely usage-based. You only pay for what you use. So it's currently charged at $2 a bill plus GST. Why we've charged it at $2 a bill plus GST is we received advice from the ATO on how long it takes the average business to process a bill. And you can look this up as well. It's public knowledge. The ATO has data that suggests it takes about half an hour per bill to process per organisation. Some will be quicker, some will be slower. So in Budgetly, if you can cut that down, approve it, including the approvals and so on, to 5 minutes, give or take, we feel like the cost is very doable there. Now, if you decide that bill payments isn't for you, don't worry. You don't have to use it. And of course, it's not going to cost you anything. But if you do want to use it, just $2 a bill. You put one bill through, you put 100 bills through, just $2 a bill. So we'll just move on to some of the questions that were sent ahead of time, just so everyone gets their questions answered in the recording. We had one around someone who's already using bill payments, what is coming soon, because the master approval limit has been released recently, and what else is coming soon. Some of the things that are coming soon on bills include a more robust supplier management system here, where you're going to be able to pick and choose who can access suppliers' cards or bills that can be paid for certain suppliers but can't be paid for other ones. Maybe this department in your business can pay bills to this supplier and so on. So more robust controls for the supplier management. Bulk payments as well, bulk uploads as well. So one of the things that's coming soon is you're going to be able to go to your email inbox, say you got 20 bills to pay, select all 20 and just forward them to a Budgetly email. And the artificial intelligence we've created in here is going to pluck all those bills out for you and just dump them in so you don't have to drag and drop them one by one. There's just a couple of examples of what's coming soon. We've got another question on the chat here. Is it $2 per bill regardless of the bill amount? Yes, that's correct. So if you pay a bill for $10 or if you pay a bill for $10,000, we don't take a percentage or anything like that. It's just $2 a bill. So most of the businesses using Budgetly bill payments, the bills that they're paying are usually a couple of $1,000 here and there. Some people pay like their phone bill and so on through it. That's only $100. But yeah, it's $2 a bill. It doesn't matter how much you're paying. You can pay 50 grand if you want, still just $2 a bill. One of the other questions we got sent ahead of time. Oh, what happens if I pay to the wrong account? We've already answered that one today. And yeah, we've actually answered all of the questions that we got sent through ahead of time. So thank you everyone for joining. We have been on this session for 40 minutes so far. I will just finish off with one more poll for everyone, please. And this one is specifically about if you'd like to pop your hand up for a one-to-one call with your account manager where we can answer some questions for you, one-on-one and that type of stuff. So there's a poll up there now. Feel free to click yes or maybe not at this time. And the people that do say, yeah, I'd like a call, we'll get your account manager to give you a call and we'll answer any of your questions one-on-one and just make sure you're all good. So we've got a couple of minutes left. If there's any other questions that anyone else can think of that they'd like me to answer while we're on this call, please feel free to let me know. Otherwise, we'll probably finish up in the next 5 minutes. I'm just going to let the poll answers come through and just make sure we're getting those answers. We've got some people requesting a callback. Some people have said they're fine at this time. It's absolutely no problem. Now, just to summarize before we finish up, while I'm waiting for the poll answers to come through. Oh, sorry, we've got a few more questions I didn't even see here. Sorry about that. We've got a question here. Where did you drag the bill from? So I'll go back just to dragging and dropping the bill. So where did I drag the bill from? Well, when I click on new bill and when I click on browse, what it's opening up, which you can't see on a screen share, is it's opening up the download section of my computer where I'm able to drag a bill from that's already pre-saved on my computer. So it was emailed to me by a supplier and I pulled it out of my email. I'm just dragging it in there so the system can read it. So I'll just do that one more time so people can see. I'm just clicking on browse. What you can't see at the moment is my downloads have popped up where I can select the bill. We'll select Sadie's coffee beans and we'll drag that one in. So you're just dragging your bill in from your computer. It also works if you get a paper bill like this, like I've got here, take a photo of it and just send it to airdrop it to your computer or email it to yourself, and you can just drag that in as well. So even if you've got a piece of paper on your desk, just take a photo on your phone, you can do the same type of thing. I've got two more questions here. Sorry, everyone. I didn't actually see these before I was about to finish up. When I pay bills, I don't have the option to pay now or schedule. I have request approval. Okay, that's a great question. And that's what we were talking about earlier with the master approval limit. Request approval. So if you're trying to pay a bill that is over the master approval limit that is set by your admins, you're not going to see pay now and you're not going to see schedule. You're going to see request approval. So thank you for that question. That's why you are seeing request approval in your account, not pay now or schedule. And we've got one more question. It looks like it's about the cost as well. Does Budgetly charge me for having this feature in our platform? So no, you're only charged usage based. It's only when you actually start using it, and it's per bill. So you can have suppliers in here, you can have bills and so on. You only pay for what you use. So you're not charged just for having it. You're only charged when you actually use the bill payments, and it's charged per bill. So I think we've got all the questions answered. I'm just going to finish that poll as well. We've got a couple of people who would like a call from their account manager, which is absolutely no problem. I'd be happy to. I'll organise that this afternoon. If you don't hear from your account manager this afternoon, it'll probably be early tomorrow morning. It just depends on how many people need calls. And that looks like it's about it for questions. So thank you, everyone, for joining the Budgetly Bill Payments Training webinar. This is going to be run on a monthly basis, and it's a free service. You can turn up as much as you want. You can join as many of us as you want. As we release new features in the future, you'll probably attend a few more. And if you do want any one-to-one training, please don't forget, you can call us. The telephone support's free. The email support, the training, it's all free. You don't have to pay for it. So you just let us know how we can help you. We'll finish up the Budgetly Bill Payments Training webinar there. We will be in touch with everyone who put their hand up to get a call. Thank you, everyone, for joining. And for those that want to attend again, we'll see you next month. Enjoy, everyone. Hopefully, we'll see you soon.